Honourable members, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Tourism Development Bill be read a third time and pass. I now put the question. As many have that opinion, say aye.
Aye. I want St. Lucians to reflect on what we've achieved today, to reflect on what this government has been doing, the Youth Economy Agency, the MSME, Mr. Speaker, and the community tourism, and now this, as very clear statements of our faith and belief in the capacity of St. Lucians to achieve. We believe that our people, if given the support, if given the legislative framework, if given the financial support, and if provided with the leadership, can achieve great things. We're not a large country with huge natural resources, but we are determined people. We've produced among the best thinkers in the world, 2 Nobel laureates. We've produced many other outstanding technocrats throughout the region and internationally. We can achieve. We must have the faith and the belief that as a people we can do so. And the role of this government is to provide that support, provide that leadership, so our people can be bold enough to take the steps to achieve. This piece of legislation is another step in doing so, to tell our people that the tourism industry, the engine of this economy, the economic activity that brings in the most money into this country, can belong to them. It can belong to them. And this offers them the opportunity to do so. The assistance we give for the Youth Economy Agency, the assistance for the Community Tourism Agency, what we're doing in sports, the semi-professional league, the high performance center, all those things are about saying to our people, you can do it. And the role of government is to create the enabling environment for you to succeed. Have faith, seize the opportunities, and let us make St. Lucia a much better place.
An act to facilitate inclusive, resilient, and sustainable tourism development, to provide for administration by the department responsible for tourism development, tourism certification, incentives for tourism investment.
Any concessions you got under the old act, you will continue to enjoy it. Yes.
That's not what the member said. What the members, may I, Mr. Speaker, I apologize. Mr. Speaker, what the members said is that the schedule of the regulations would have continued to be in play. There's nowhere in that document.
Who said so?
No.
You did.
Who said so?
So you're telling me that you've repealed the act, and exactly what I said is 100% accurate. In repealing the act, then the incentives as we know them have been repealed. So if I want to apply for new incentives tomorrow, what guides me? Where is it?
Mr. Speaker, I will read for you again. You read 157. Have you read clause 157? Read 157.
That is what establishes the criteria to determine what incentives a person gets. If in fact cabinet, maybe the cabinet he was belonging to, wants to go away from that, but the parameters of what incentives to give based on the level of investment, the level of jobs, and the size of the hotel, all those things are the criteria. That is what I'm looking for. That is what I'm not seeing in the new act. Now, if in fact, Mr. Speaker, that the members have not done that as yet, and the intention to do it.
Member, on a point of order, you stand, you say what the point of order is. You've made your statement, and then you take your seat. Member for Castries South, the member is saying that there are clear parameters as to what level of incentives that a person can get. I'm saying what the member is saying, member for Castries South. He's saying that there are clear parameters, and it's not a discretionary issue as it relates to incentives.
Mr. Speaker,
from the
I may be wrong, but the staff from the AG Chambers are here, and from the Ministry of Tourism. I am not aware of any piece of legislation that says if you create X amount of jobs, you spend X amount of money, this is what you get. I am not familiar with that piece of legislation. I am not. And if the honourable member from Miko South has such legislation, it is his private legislation. So in the previous legislation, the discretion was that of cabinet and no objective criteria. Ladies and gentlemen sit around a table and they just decide, give me 25%. even 50%. Because there was no objective criteria. And all of us you were in cabinet, we sat. Let me tell you how vulgar and obscene it got. Let me tell you how vulgar and obscene it got. By this very member from Mico South. A particular developer, and everybody will know who, I don't have to mention names, applied for concessions. Concessions were given. When it went to the AG chambers, they said they could not publish it because it was not in keeping with the law. Think about that. And then, you know what they did? Came into this house and amended the law to say that cabinet can give extras if they want to give extras. Tell me about that. That's how vulgar and obscene it became. All right, Mr. Speaker. All right, can we agree to disagree? And we can always ask the legal persons to take a look at it and give some worthy consideration to the point that you're raising.
Thank you,
because I'm not a lawyer. I can only give you the interpretation I have and the advice I'm given. If you believe your interpretation is better or correct, I will allow them to resolve it. So, but can we move on?
Member for Castries South, can you continue with the presentation?
Can I continue? So, Mr. Speaker, I was making the point. Just one example, because it's quite a lengthy document, the regulation. So I'll give you one example. And I want those he's already sent messages to, that we're only giving 50% concessions, to listen carefully as well. Say tourism accommodation. Say a first-time construction of a tourist accommodation and its initial furnishing and equipping. Investment size up to 5 million, and that's where most solutions would apply for. Across all the incentives, they will get 100%. Import duty, excise duty, VAT, stamp duty, income tax, corporate tax, property tax, vendor tax, withholding tax, they will get 100%. But it has various periods. But it's clearly stated. Anybody can invest, know exactly what they will get. Hold on. Now you're changing your story. Let me go on. From $5 million and $1 to 20 million.
Member for Castries South, you have 15 minutes to conclude your presentation.
I'll finish by then. So for 5 million to 20 million, import duty 100, excise duty 100, VAT 100, stamp duty 100, income tax 50%. It's not automatic 100. Corporate tax 50%, property tax 50%. Then you go to 20 million plus, import duty 100, excise duty 100, VAT 100, stamp duty 50, income tax 50 up to 15 years. So you have a table that clearly states for each activity, investment activity, not only accommodation, every single investment opportunity is listed there, every single one. We fit the investment size in terms of the quantity, and it states what percentage you will get. And as I stated in my presentation, where you have 50% on the certain of the incentives, you can get the additional ones according to your commitment to certain principles. You understand? It means any investor coming to St. Lucia, any St. Lucian, and may I say, most of the investment opportunities that St. Lucians engage in through our historical data, they will maximize incentives and concessions. Okay? But what it does, and where it will eat at the member, is that anybody coming into the country or any St. Lucian investing cannot be discriminated against anymore. It's a transparent, objective criteria of who gets what. You know what it does? And it's a very brave decision for politicians to have made. Very brave. It reduces the discretion of politicians to decide who get incentives and benefits in this country. Which is why in the legislation a decision can be made that a committee in the ministry can decide up to a certain amount the concessions that are granted, because the table will say exactly what you can get. There'll be very little space for discretion. And politicians of this government actually took a decision to outline in a very transparent, open way what are the benefits you will get when you come and invest. Nobody will hold anybody to ransom, nobody will threaten anybody, and nobody will discriminate against anybody in this country when it comes to investment in the tourism sector. And politicians took that decision. I'm not saying there is absolutely no discretion, but the space for discretion is severely minimized. Severely minimized. And I know a piece of legislation like this, a progressive piece of legislation like this, can never be passed by a United Workers' Party government. Never. Because they thrive on discriminating against certain people and favoring others. And if some people don't like me for saying this, I'm sorry, it is the truth. All St. Lucians must feel, regardless of political persuasion, that they are treated fairly and squarely. And these regulations, when they are published, and we still probably have some tidying up to make, we're still getting feedback on some of them, will be a public document and not what that exists right now. So the member doesn't like it. And you have to really reflect on this, Mr. Speaker, that this member, when he wanted to give concessions, he gave beyond what the law said he could give. The AG Chambers in his own government said they could not publish it. He came to this house and he did an amendment so that the cabinet can give extras. Think about that abuse of power. This stopped this. This stopped this. So he cannot feel comfortable anymore. So, Honorable Member, we will determine a date by which a new act will come into force, and the minister will sign the order, and the processes will take over. I'm not saying it is a perfect document. I can tell you it's guided by experience and historical data. We may have to amend it, we may have to modify it, but that's the nature of the beast. We try to capture everything for every situation, and you know you will never totally get it that way. Never. So I am prepared to say that the regulations may have to be tweaked along the way until we approximate the very best practice. But this is a good start. And we are removing the stain of the Alan Chastanet administration on the investment climate in St. Lucia.